Someone in a position of power just pulled your abuser aside and asked a question they never expected to hear. "Do you know who you hurt?" The room went quiet. Their smile froze, because for the first time in their career, someone with real influence is connecting the dots, and your name just came up in a conversation they weren't ready for. This isn't wishful thinking. This is the shift that happens when people who abuse their power forget one critical rule. Everyone is always being watched by someone higher, and right now, someone at the top is asking questions your abuser can't dodge, deflect, or charm their way out of. The pattern they thought was invisible is now glowing under a spotlight they didn't see coming. They thought they controlled the narrative. They thought their reputation was untouchable, and they thought the people who mattered would never care enough to investigate what really happened behind closed doors. But reputations built on silence don't survive scrutiny, and scrutiny just walked into the room wearing a suit that doesn't smile for games. If this message is hitting you right now, don't scroll yet. Hit that like button. Drop a 77 in the comments if you can feel the shift already happening, and subscribe, because what I'm about to break down will show you exactly how the tables turn when someone with real power stops pretending not to notice. Let's unpack this step by step. Here's what most people don't understand about professional environments, institutional systems, and power dynamics. There's always someone higher watching, always. Your abuser might have fooled their peers, charmed their immediate circle, and controlled the optics in their department. But they forgot something critical. The people at the very top didn't get there by being blind to patterns. While your abuser was busy managing their image and silencing dissent, someone with actual authority was quietly taking notes. Not because they cared about you specifically at first, but because patterns of behavior create organizational risk, and risk gets attention. Your abuser thought they were untouchable because no one challenged them directly. But silence from below doesn't mean approval from above. The moment someone with decision-making power starts asking, who exactly did they target? What happened to that person afterward? Why does this keep happening around them? The entire game changes. This isn't about justice in some cosmic sense. This is about institutional self-preservation. Organizations protect their interests, and your abuser just became a liability. What makes this moment so devastating for them is the timing. They're not being confronted during the abuse. They're being confronted after they thought they'd gotten away with it, after they stopped thinking about you, after they moved on to new targets, new projects, new performances, and now someone who controls their future is calmly asking questions that have only one honest answer. And honesty is the one thing they've avoided this entire time. Your abuser's entire professional identity was constructed on a foundation of unspoken agreements. The agreement that you wouldn't speak up. The agreement that you'd disappear quietly. The agreement that no one important would ever connect their success to your suffering. They climbed higher while you were pushed lower, and they assumed that distance made them safe. But here's the flaw in their strategy. Silence isn't permanent. It's pressure building in a sealed container. And every container has a breaking point. Maybe you didn't break it yourself. Maybe you never said a word publicly, but someone else noticed. Someone else asked the right question at the right time. Someone else saw the gap between their polished image and the trail of damage they left behind. Now that person with influence is asking your abuser directly, What happened with that employee, that colleague, that project lead who left suddenly? And your abuser has two choices: lie and risk being caught later, or tell a version of the truth that exposes their behavior. Neither option protects them anymore. The silence they weaponized against you just became the trap they're caught in. The person asking these questions isn't coming from anger or personal vendetta. They're coming from a place of calculated assessment. They're measuring risk. They're evaluating liability. They're determining whether your abuser is worth the institutional cost of keeping them around. And every hesitation, every deflection, every attempt to rewrite history just adds weight to the scale tipping against them. Reputations aren't built in isolation. They're built on the backs of other people's labor, silence, and sacrifice. Your abuser's glowing reviews, their promotions, their accolades, none of that happened in a vacuum. It happened because you absorbed the chaos they created. You covered their mistakes. You stayed quiet when they took credit. You made them look functional when they were falling apart. They borrowed credibility from your competence and your silence. And now someone at the top is auditing the accounts. They're looking at your abuser's track record, not as a highlight reel, but as a timeline. And timelines reveal patterns. Patterns reveal truth. The truth is, your abuser only succeeded when certain people were around to manage the fallout. And when those people left, the cracks started showing. The person asking questions now has access to information your abuser thought was buried. Performance reviews, exit interviews, project failures that were quietly reassigned. They're not just hearing your abuser's side anymore. They're hearing everyone's side, and the story doesn't match. When 5 different people describe the same behavioral pattern, and only one person denies it, credibility shifts fast. Your abuser thought their charm would carry them forever. But charm has a shelf life in professional environments. Eventually results matter, culture matters, retention matters. And when someone with authority starts tallying the cost of keeping your abuser employed, the turnover, the HR complaints, the dropped projects, the reputation risk, the math stops adding up in their favor. Here's the part your abuser never calculated. You weren't their only target. You were just one in a series, and patterns don't stay hidden forever. While they were busy convincing themselves each situation was isolated, someone at the top started seeing the commonalities. Different people, different departments, same behavioral outcomes. That's not coincidence. That's a signature. The person asking questions now has compared notes. They've spoken to others who left quietly, transferred departments, or burned out under your abuser's management. What your abuser dismissed as personality clashes or performance issues, someone else is recognizing as a systematic problem, and systematic problems require systematic solutions. Your abuser is about to become the solution. What makes this so lethal is that your abuser can't deny the pattern without calling everyone else liars. They can discredit one person, they can spin 2 situations, but when the number climbs to 5, 7, 10 people who all describe the same manipulation, the same gaslighting, the same targeted cruelty, their credibility collapses entirely. They're not dealing with your word against theirs anymore. They're dealing with evidence. The moment someone in power recognizes that your abuser isn't an asset with occasional interpersonal friction, but a recurring liability that damages culture and talent retention, everything shifts. The cost-benefit analysis flips. Your abuser goes from protected to expendable, and that shift happens faster than they can prepare for because they never saw it coming. They were too busy performing to notice they were being observed. When someone at the top asks your abuser, "What happened with this person?" watch what they do. They don't take responsibility. They don't acknowledge complexity. They immediately launch into a defensive script they've perfected over years. They rewrite history. They diminish your competence. Or they paint themselves as the reasonable one dealing with a difficult employee. But here's the trap. The person asking the question has already heard this exact script from them before. Different name, same story, and repetition reveals dishonesty. When someone blames every person who left under their management, every colleague who transferred, every subordinate who burned out, the common denominator becomes obvious. It's not all those people. It's the one person they all had to deal with. Your abuser's defense strategy just became their confession. Every time they try to discredit you, they're revealing their tactics. Every time they minimize what happened, they're admitting something happened. Every time they deflect responsibility, they're confirming they have something to be responsible for. The person listening isn't naive. They're trained to spot manipulation, and your abuser just demonstrated it in real time. What's even more damaging is this. The moment your abuser tries to rewrite your history to protect themselves, they're gambling that no one will verify the story. But people do verify now. The person at the top will pull records, talk to witnesses, check timelines. And when your abuser's version doesn't match the documented reality, they don't just look bad. They look dishonest. And dishonesty in professional settings is a fireable offense. The question that destroys your abuser isn't about you specifically. It's broader and more damaging. Why do we keep losing talented people around this person? That's the question that shifts the entire narrative. Because now it's not about personality conflicts. It's about organizational bleeding. And bleeding costs money, reputation, and stability. The person asking this question has noticed a pattern that your abuser thought was invisible. Every time a competent, high-performing individual works under or alongside your abuser, they leave, they transfer, they quit, they burn out, and the official reasons given never quite explain the consistency. So someone with authority started digging deeper, and the deeper they dig, the clearer your abuser's role becomes. Your abuser will try to spin this as coincidence, as mismatched personalities, as people being too sensitive for high-pressure environments. But the person asking the questions isn't listening to excuses anymore. They're looking at turnover data, exit interview patterns, and the cost of constantly rehiring and retraining talent. And that cost has a name attached to it now. Your abuser's name. What makes this particularly devastating is that your abuser can't defend against math. They can spin narratives, manipulate emotions, and rewrite individual stories. But they can't explain why retention rates drop specifically in their orbit. They can't explain why talented people thrive everywhere except under their management. They can't explain why the pattern only breaks when they're removed from the equation. Your abuser had allies, people who covered for them, dismissed complaints, or looked the other way. Those alliances felt permanent to them. But alliances in professional settings are always conditional. They last as long as the benefits outweigh the costs. And someone at the top just recalculated the math. The people who protected your abuser did so because it was easier than confronting them, and it's because they shared similar behaviors, or because they benefited from the chaos your abuser created. But protection evaporates when liability becomes visible. The moment someone with real authority starts asking questions, those allies get quiet, fast. They distance themselves. They suddenly remember concerns they never voiced before. Your abuser is about to experience isolation they never anticipated. The same people who laughed at their jokes, ignored their behavior, and enabled their tactics are now pretending they barely know them. Because when institutional accountability arrives, everyone scrambles to the right side of the line, and your abuser is standing on the wrong side, alone. What's even more brutal is this. The people who protected your abuser will now provide evidence against them to protect themselves. They'll share emails, confirm meetings, verify timelines, not because they suddenly grew a conscience, but because they're saving their own careers. Your abuser thought loyalty was guaranteed, but loyalty in toxic systems is just self-interest wearing a friendly mask, and self-interest just switched sides. You never had to fight back publicly. You never had to expose them dramatically. You never had to build a case or gather evidence. All you had to do was survive and move forward. Because systems eventually audit themselves, organizations eventually clean house, and people who abuse power eventually run out of people willing to absorb the damage. Time is the most patient investigator. While your abuser was celebrating their escape from consequences, time was quietly compiling the pattern. Every month that passed added another data point. Another person who left, another complaint filed and dismissed, another project that failed for reasons that were never fully explained, and now someone with authority is reviewing all of it at once. Your abuser thought your silence meant victory, but your silence was just you refusing to play their game while the larger system caught up. You weren't weak for not fighting back immediately. You were strategic. You removed yourself from their chaos and let natural consequences take their course. And natural consequences always arrive. They just don't arrive on your timeline. They arrive on reality's timeline. Now your abuser is facing questions they can't answer, scrutiny they can't avoid, and consequences they can't charm their way out of. Not because you orchestrated it, but because their behavior created inevitable outcomes. You didn't need revenge. You needed distance and time, and both just delivered exactly what you never had to ask for. Here's what happens when someone at the top starts asking questions. Everything gets reviewed. Not just recent behavior, everything. Projects from 3 years ago, emails from 5 years ago, complaints that were dismissed or buried. Your abuser thought the past was dead. But in professional environments, the past is archived, and archives get opened during audits. The person asking questions now has access to records your abuser forgot existed, documentation they thought was destroyed, complaints they assumed were dismissed permanently, witnesses they thought had moved on and forgotten. But people don't forget abuse. They just stop talking about it until someone safe asks. But your abuser is about to discover that every person they hurt, dismissed, or silenced is a potential witness. And when someone with authority reaches out and says, "We're reviewing this person's history. Can you tell us what you experienced?" People talk, not out of revenge, out of relief. Relief that someone finally cares. Relief that their experience finally matters. Relief that they're not alone. What destroys your abuser isn't one dramatic revelation. It's the accumulation of a dozen quiet confirmations. A dozen people saying, "Yes, that happened to me too." A dozen timelines that align. A dozen patterns that match. Your abuser can't fight 12 identical stories. They can't discredit 12 separate witnesses. They can't rewrite 12 different histories. The truth just became too heavy to bury. You don't have to do anything now. The process is in motion without your involvement. Someone at the top is making decisions based on risk assessment, organizational health, and long-term stability. Your abuser's fate isn't in your hands. It's in the hands of people who don't care about their charm, their excuses, or their carefully crafted image. They care about one thing: protecting the organization. And right now, your abuser is the threat, not you. Not the people who left, not the ones who spoke up. The person whose behavior creates legal risk, cultural toxicity, and talent loss is the threat. And organizations eliminate threats. They don't do it loudly. They do it strategically, quietly, efficiently. Your abuser might not be fired tomorrow, but they're being moved, sidelined, watched. Their authority is being stripped piece by piece. Their autonomy is shrinking. Their access to vulnerable targets is being cut off. They're being managed out, and they might not even realize it's happening until the final conversation occurs. What you're witnessing isn't justice in the emotional sense. It's correction. Systems correcting imbalances, organizations protecting their interests, careers ending not with explosions but with quiet closures. Your abuser will leave, transfer, or be reassigned, and the official reason will be neutral, professional, unremarkable. But everyone who knows will understand exactly what happened, and that understanding is the real consequence. The person at the top just asked your abuser, "Do you know who you hurt?" And in that moment, your abuser had to face something they spent years avoiding: your name, your work, your value, the full weight of what they destroyed because they could. They can't undo it. They can't apologize their way out of institutional consequences. They can't repair the reputation they damaged, the career they derailed, the confidence they shattered. The moment someone in authority connects their behavior to real human damage, the narrative shifts permanently. They're not a tough boss anymore. They're a liability. They're not demanding anymore. They're abusive. They're not misunderstood. They're documented. And here's the cruelest part. They probably still don't fully understand what they did wrong, because people who abuse power rarely see their actions as abuse. They see it as management, as standards, as necessary pressure. They've convinced themselves the story they tell is the truth. But the person asking the questions doesn't care about their story anymore. They care about the pattern, and the pattern is undeniable. Your abuser is about to learn a lesson that comes too late to help them. Power without accountability is temporary. Reputations built on cruelty are fragile, and organizations will always choose stability over protecting someone who creates chaos. They know who they hurt now, and knowing doesn't save them. It just confirms why they're being removed. You didn't need to scream your truth from rooftops. You didn't need to wage a public war. You didn't need to prove yourself to people who were never going to listen. You just needed to survive, move forward, and let the pattern reveal itself. And it did. Someone at the top just asked your abuser a question they never prepared for. And that question is the beginning of consequences you never had to orchestrate. You were always right about what happened. The people who mattered just took longer to see it, but they see it now. And once people in positions of authority see the truth, everything changes without you lifting a finger. Your abuser built their career on silence, control, and calculated cruelty. But silence breaks, control expires, and cruelty leaves a trail that eventually leads back to its source. They thought they escaped. They thought they won. They thought you were forgotten. But systems have long memories. And right now, your name is part of a conversation that's going to cost them everything they thought they'd secured. You don't need revenge. You don't need closure. You don't need validation from the people who failed you. Because someone who actually has the power to act just started asking the right questions. And when the right questions get asked in professional environments, the truth doesn't just emerge. It restructures everything. If this video resonated with you, hit that subscribe button, drop a like, share this with someone who needs to know that silence isn't defeat, it's patience, and comment below with the number 77 if you felt this shift happening in real time. The tables are turning, not because you begged for justice, but because reality always catches up. And right now it just caught up to the person who thought they'd gotten away with hurting you. You were never the problem. You were the evidence. And evidence doesn't expire. It waits. And now someone who matters is finally reading it.